last night's performance.
Everything we've been working on and frustrated about early on in the season, you can finally see it come together. Having a defensive mindset every single night.
We held them to 105 tonight, so that's just a great defensive effort right there. I think we're just being more attention to detail. We're just playing hard from the first quarter to the fourth quarter.
All right, Stephen A., after last night's game, we're thinking, who has the better chance to reach the finals? You think it's the Clippers after they made some moves, or the Bucks?
It's the Milwaukee Bucks. Max Kellerman, for simple arithmetic reasons. They only got one team they need to go through, pretty much. The Western Conference is wide open, especially if with the sole express purpose with the only exception rather is Anthony Davis if he's 100%. Then there's nothing to talk about. The Lakers will cakewalk to the finals. Outside of that, it's a crapshoot. I mean, when you look at the teams in the Western Conference, it's the Lakers, it's the Clippers, it's the Jazz, it's the Denver Nuggets, it's the Portland Trail Blazers, it's the Phoenix Suns. You just look at how loaded the Western Conference is with the Dallas Mavericks being an outside threat and what have you. We can't ignore that. In the Eastern Conference, it's about Milwaukee, Brooklyn, and Philly. Period. We can look at Miami. We can look at Boston as having an outside chance and stuff like that. But it really comes down to Milwaukee, Philly, and, of course, Brooklyn being the number one team. And what if Brooklyn has to face one of them before the other? See, I don't know if Milwaukee and Philly would have to go against each other before they face Brooklyn. Because then, from an arithmetic perspective, mathematical perspective, then obviously that would be different because that would be similar to what you have to go through in the Western Conference. But I'm not anticipating that. I'm anticipating them having to face only one of them. And I think it's a situation where it's just like, hey, that's what it is. Whereas in the Western Conference, I think the Western Conference is considerably more loaded. That's all. That's the only reason.
The Clippers, I think, are far more likely to win the championship than the Bucks.
No, I was talking about getting out.
Even getting the finals. I think to reach the finals, the Clippers are far more likely than the Bucks, and I'll tell you why. And I saw it last night again with Giannis. Giannis can hit a wide-open three. If you put a little pressure on him defensively, he does not hit that shot. The philosophy will be the exact same as it's been. Mm-hmm. The difference being they have Drew Holiday, right, who's a clutch player in the playoffs. Right. But here's the problem, Stephen A. Mm-hmm. I saw James Harden and Kyrie Irving go through the best teams in the Western Conference, 5 straight games on the road, beat them all, without KD. Once KD gets back, it's a wrap. But let's put Brooklyn aside. So they ain't getting out of the East if they have all 3 guys. Like, forget Milwaukee getting out of the East if Brooklyn's healthy. Let's say they're not. But Embiid is playing for Philadelphia. I don't think Milwaukee's better than Philadelphia. I'll tell you something else. In the playoffs, I don't know if Milwaukee's going to be better than Miami. They weren't last year. I don't know. But I look at this Clippers team with Kawhi and Paul George. The real issue with the Clippers is Paul George is not a star when they need him to be a star. They got Rondo. That's going to help that. Okay. It's going to help that. And it's going to help Kawhi because Kawhi doesn't have to play point forward. Okay. You look at how deep this team is. Really take Ibaka and Batum. Rondo, Ibaka, Batum, Kawhi, and Paul George. That's a lot. But then look at the bench. Zubac can really play.
I like Zubac. Lakers gave him up.
Yep. Marcus Morris can play. Kennard, do you know what Kennard's hitting? I know you didn't like that deal.
I don't.
Do you know what Kennard's shooting from 3 this year? I looked it up.
Yeah.
Almost 50%. He's shooting 49%. Taking 3 threes a game, shooting 49%. Reggie Jackson can play. Patrick Beverly, we know, can play. What about this kid? Man, he's good. Like, they have they go 11 deep on the Clippers for real with 11 dudes who can play and a real all-star quality starting 5. The Clippers, the real roadblock standing in their way is a healthy AD and LeBron, which we don't know is going to happen. Denver is real tough, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I did mention that.
Yeah, Denver's going to be real tough. But when I look at the Bucks and what they're capable of versus an unbeatable Brooklyn team, and I look at the Clippers fully loaded, I don't see a single team where I'm like, if everyone's healthy, the Clippers have no shot. I think everyone healthy, including the Lakers, the Clippers have a real good shot. If everyone's healthy in the East, Milwaukee has no shot. Milwaukee's never going to get by that Brooklyn team. Forget that.
I understand that mode of thinking, but we're coming from 2 different angles. I totally understand you're saying if everybody's healthy. I'm just thinking about the number of teams in the West that you have to compete with compared to what you have to compete with in the Eastern Conference. You have a top 3, and then there's everybody else. In the Western Conference, you have a top 6, top 7. And because of that, I think the road to prosperity is significantly tougher coming out of the West than it's going to be out of the Eastern Conference. That's the only reason why I say the Bucks have an easier path. It's not that ultimately if you face Brooklyn's going to be easier than everybody. I'm picking them to win it all. I'm just simply saying that when you look at the road that you have to travel to get to that, I'm thinking it's far more difficult, just round by round, for the Clippers, I anticipate, than it would be
give you something else.
For the Milwaukee Bucks.
You know who I think matches up best with Brooklyn out of the West? I think it's actually the Clippers. I think the Clippers, because they have 2 dominant two-way wings. The whole key is, can Paul George perform under pressure?
Hold it.
That's
hold
the
it.
whole
Hold
key.
it. With all due respect, and I love me some Paul George, one of my favorite people in the world, and I think he's a damn good player. And Kawhi Leonard is a silent assassin. We all know that, but I think he could elevate his level of leadership. Here's the bottom line.
Don't need to with Rondo.
Here's the bottom line. You don't get to call them great two-way players after they let Jamal Murray drop 40 in a Game 7.
They are. You're going to say they're not great two-way players?
No,
Kawhi?
What I'm saying to you is this. You're the man. It's a berth to the conference finals on the line. And not only do you lose, y'all fold offensively. Defensively, Jamal Murray dropped 40
one game, man.
Yeah. It's a Game 7. It matters.
After all the Game 7s or important games in Kawhi's career.
Let me tell you something right now. What have you done for me lately? I'm a Janet Jackson fan. And let me tell you something right now. What have you done for me lately matters to me. I'm telling you right now, I'm not questioning their abilities. I'm not saying that they're not these players. What I'm saying is the residual impact that was left behind, the indelible mark, is that you let Jamal Murray drop 40 on you
Rondo's going to fix
Game
that.
7.
Rondo fixed it.
No, I'm not letting. I'm not forgetting that.
Different.
I'm not forgetting that.
According to our basketball power index here at ESPN, the Bucks have the 5th best odds to reach the finals, and the Clippers have the 6th best. So right there.
Going to the NBA. Oh, die with the lie. Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge are feeling the hate for joining the Super Team Nets. Blake saying this in the response to critics. It's kind of funny to me because for the last couple of years, all I heard is how bad I am. You sign with the team and everybody's like, that's not fair. Stephen A., some hypocrisy here. Is Griffin Aldridge criticism justified?
Well, first of all, it's justified, and secondly, and more importantly,
can I ask you something? How can you ask Stephen A. that question? He's the guy doing the criticizing.
Yeah.
Is it justified? Who's louder about it than Stephen A.?
That would be true.
I know.
Absolutely
I didn't know if I should just put him on the spot like that on Front Street right out of the gate. I'm going to let him do it himself.
I said what I said. I meant what the hell I said. Ain't nobody scared of Blake Griffin. I respect the hell out of him. I really do. Not just as a basketball player, but as a person. But I said what I said. I meant what the hell I meant. All right. The fact of the matter is that he's got this wrong, though, in this sense. It wasn't me that said that. Remember, I was pointing out how Blake Griffin, and you remember when you were talking about Max, how the dissipation and skills, and I was saying he's a place where he doesn't want to be.
Notice he's dunking now.
It's Detroit. He doesn't want to be there. He's not that interested in being there, et cetera, et cetera. You know what? You depart from L.A. to go to the Motor City. It's a difference. And you look at the Clippers franchise and what he had there compared to what he has in Detroit. It's a difference. That's what I pointed to. I certainly didn't point to some flagrant dissipation of skills. As a matter of fact, the only argument that we made, and I still stand by that, is who would you rather have, Blake Griffin or Carmelo Anthony, when we would talk about both of them. And I said I'd rather have Carmelo Anthony. And I didn't think that Blake Griffin was Carmelo Anthony. This is years ago. We had that discussion. That's the only negative thing I've ever said about Blake Griffin, and I don't consider it negative. It was just me praising Carmelo Anthony because, damn it, Carmelo Anthony deserved it. He deserves it now, and I'm very proud of my brother for doing what he's been doing.
But in between, he didn't deserve it so much.
Well, you could say he didn't deserve it, but he
does deserve it now. He deserved it then.
He had departed from the Knicks. And then remember, he was in Oklahoma City and then from Oklahoma City to Houston. But there were some issues in both respective places, which I highlighted. But for him to be out of the league was just ridiculous. And Carmelo Anthony has proved me right. I'm proud of that brother. Now let me get back to Blake Griffin. That's all I said. I've never said anything about Blake Griffin could play. Matter of fact, I specifically pointed out he can play. Here's where Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge needs to understand where I'm coming from. KD might have left Oklahoma City to go to Golden State, Max and Molly. But KD was a superstar. And he arrived as a superstar. And even though they were a bomb squad, he still elevated them because he's that great. Okay? That's what I'm talking about. When you look at LaMarcus Aldridge and Blake Griffin, they were once the cornerstones of a franchise in Portland and LA, respectively. When LaMarcus Aldridge went to San Antonio, that was a big-time free agent pickup for the San Antonio Spurs. And we were looking at them different because LaMarcus Aldridge had arrived, and obviously they had the other pieces there, Manu and Kawhi and all that other stuff, with Tim Duncan fading into twilight. We understood that. What I'm saying is that you look at them now, it's as if they are literally hanging on for the sole express purpose of getting a championship while making a minimal contribution. That is not the same as you being some big-time talent and then going to a team as a big-time talent where you're playing a pivotal role. And so what I'm saying is for them to join a squad where you're talking about Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge possibly not even being a fourth option. A fourth option. I'm like, damn, that's all I'm saying. And I don't apologize for that because I'm about this competition, man. It means everything to me in this sense. I want to see who you go against. How many times do I sit here with you, Max, across from you and talking to Molly? How many times do I pay attention to two things? Resume, and I talk about who you win against.
Quality of opposition.
The quality of opposition. And when the scales are tipped so dramatically that there's barely competition, I'm not saying that's reality, I'm saying that's the intent. That's where I get alarmed. That's all I'm saying.
Blake is right about this, and you're wrong. Okay. And I will tell you why.
Please do.
First of all, the media is not a monolith. We all have different things to say.
Sure.
But overwhelmingly,